Hi, I'm Selena, and I'm here with Mona Shroff, who is a contemporary romance author. And she is going to be talking to you about her books and basically about her life as an author. So, Mona, for readers unfamiliar with your work, how would you describe what you write?
First, I want to thank you for having me on. I really appreciate that. Um, I'm real always excited to support like the indie books, and I actually like Zoom because I'm in Maryland and you're all the way, I think, in Massachusetts.
Yep.
And without Zoom, maybe this wouldn't have been possible. So I'm really excited to be here. Um, you did ask me about my books, um, so my books are basically contemporary romance. The first one came out a year 2020 January, and the last one came out just this past 2021. And I would say that they are books about family and love, and of course, because it's a romance, happy endings. The first book I think is probably more about, say, a story about forgiveness and learning how to do that. And I think the second book is more a book about hope, in the face of the horrible things that I have my character have happened to my characters. So it's about hope and the possibilities of what hope can bring to your life.
Wonderful. And what do you think draws readers to these kinds of books?
I think honestly, I think that readers are drawn to romance because of sort of the definition of romance, which is it's going to end well. So it's either a happily ever after or what they call now HFN, which is happily for now. But basically, the couple, no matter what's going on with them, you know how it's going to end. You know that they are going to find a way to be together, and I think that is very satisfying for a lot of people, particularly now, but even before the COVID and all the shutdowns and everything. I think I think a lot of readers just want to know that it's going to be a happy ending and that somebody's not going to die at the end. Um, and it's all about that journey of this couple. It's about the journey in their lives and where they are and how they get there and how they let love into their lives together. And I think that tends to be the draw for people who like these types of books.
Great. And what was the inspiration for Then There Was You?
Yeah. So then there was you. Um, you know, I wanted to try. I wanted to investigate what would happen if I took two people who were broken, by life and by things that had happened to them, and try to get them together and see what would happen. And I was hoping, and it did turn out that way, that they would find hope and that they would be able to, not necessarily have love conquer all in the terms of that, oh, now I found you and now my life is perfect and better, but in the terms of now that they found that love, that now they have sort of someone behind them, or someone to walk with them along their journey, um, to happiness and healing.
And what were the steps that you took to bring it from initial inspiration to final product?
So there's a lot of steps involved for me, at least in any drafting. So, and it was similar with Then Now Always, but with Then Now Always, I was sort of writing into the void. I didn't have a contract. This was a contracted book, and so I had a set amount of time. What I basically do is I draft it out. Like I just sort of vomit words onto a page, um, and hope that there's some kind of story there. I do like a rough outline. I'm not a sort of a fly by the seat of your pants or a pantser, as they're called, completely. I'm also not 100% strict to my outline. So I like to know my characters. I like to kind of know where they're going, where they're going to end up at the end of the book. And then I put it out there. I don't write linearly. I don't necessarily write from beginning to end. I might write a couple of kissing scenes. I might write a breakup scene. I might write this, and then I kind of figure out where it all needs to go. at the end. So I have a draft. I do a couple of drafts and then I send it out to sort of some friends who are beta readers, um, to make sure that I hit everything. And then they give me their feedback. And then I work from there. I think this one also went to my agent, to get some of her feedback as well. And so there's like a lot of learning that happens before I end up with sort of what I think is a polished manuscript that I can send off to my editor, who then reads it and then comes back to me with whatever developmental edits I might need to do to, make it even better. And then of course copy edits, and then dotting your I's and crossing your T's, and word choice and everything comes after that. So.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of research went into this book?
So for Then There Was You, there was quite a bit of research that went into it. So I don't know if it's spoilery or not, but so Daniel has lost a child, and having never experienced that, I looked, I Googled, I looked on the internet, and there really isn't a lot for fathers who are grieving, but I did find a wonderful book that I acknowledge in the back of the book, about grieving dads, that I think it's called Grieving Dads, that I read from cover to cover, and I'll do that kind of thing. I'll find a book and I'll read a lot about it, or I talk to people who have had similar types of experiences, and try to get a feeling, an honest feeling for what they might have been going through, and how they ended up where they are and where they are in their healing process. And I feel like a lot of these healing processes are more or less lifetime. You're doing great for a while and then maybe you're not, and then you do great for a while and then maybe you're not. So
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I kind of, so I'll read, I talk to people. Some of the racism things that I dealt with in that book actually happened to my daughter, so I went ahead and just put that into the book because I was so angry I didn't know what else to do. So I put it into my book. So there's definitely sort of life things that are in there that I have experienced, but there's also definitely things that I had to read about or talk to people about and learn about before I could put it into a book.
Okay. And what is your favorite research story?
My favorite research story. Wow, that's a really hard question. I don't really have like a favorite research story because a lot of my research for this book was very sad. But I will say that, so I don't have anything that really, really hit me in terms of being like a fun favorite. But one of the things that I think hit me really hard that is in the book that I did read about, and it's not by any means fun, was the idea that, so Daniel says that at one point in his journey with his wife after their daughter had passed, someone called up his wife and sort of accused them of like faking the whole thing, just to be able to get out there for gun control type of thing. And that's actually something I read in Time magazine, that a parent of a school shooting had said actually happened to them. And I think it was just so out of the realm of what I could possibly believe that people would do, that it just sort of stuck with me, that it was so horrible that it stuck with me. And I felt that was something that people should know about. If you hadn't read that Time magazine article, that people actually think that you make things up. Like, I understand on Twitter and everything, they think you make things up all the time, but like in real life, it just stood out to me, as a really, really, terrible kind of a thing to have to go through, in addition to everything else that you've already.
That seems really horrible. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Wow. And for this, I would assume that there weren't any real cool facts and findings that didn't make it into the book, but you love discovering.
I think discovering all these things definitely, it increases your compassion as a person. Not that we wouldn't be compassionate to someone who has gone through these things, but even Annika going through a miscarriage, I think reading about it, reading women's stories about what they've gone through, um, it definitely increases your compassion for any kind of anything that's foreign to you, like that you haven't gone through. Um, and you can understand in a way like where someone might be coming from, and why they might get stuck.
Hmm. And what were the biggest challenges in writing Then There Was You?
So that those are some of the challenges. I wanted to be, um I can't think of the word right now, but I wanted to be respectful of the feelings of people who have gone through these things. Also, I think it was challenging because in order to hit some of those emotions, you kind of have to feel them. So, if I'm not crying a little bit while I'm writing, then my reader won't cry either. And so, I think that was one of the challenges too, was just some of the topic I happened to choose was not necessarily the easiest. Um, and also the challenge was to make it have a happy ending, because at the end of the day I was writing a romance, I wasn't writing a women's fiction, so I wanted my characters to find a way to deal with the things that were going on in their lives, in a healthy way, so that at the end of the story it's believable that they would continue on and have a happily ever after, and learn from each other, and stand by each other.
Hmm. It sounds like it needs a happy, it really needs
That
a
has
happy
been-
ending.
yeah.
Wow. So I guess my question was, how did you overcome that challenge?
Um,
And
I think it came through because the intent is always that they have to be happy at the end of the book, or happily ever after, like heading towards happiness at the end of the book. And I wanted to do it like in a real believable manner. And I think because that was my mindset, no matter what they went through, there was always an uplift part of it. Like there was always they were moving towards that goal. Even in their darkest moment, they were moving towards that goal of dealing with what had gone on and trying to find each other again, trying to find each other at all.
mhm.
Yeah.
So what character did you love or hate the most while writing the book?
I really loved them both. I mean, I think it's obvious. I think I really hated Annika's ex fiance,
Hmm.
um, who literally dumps her in the hospital. But without being too spoilery, I loved writing Annika's dad. Um, I loved writing his. He had a growth that was going on too. He's a not a major player, but he's definitely a player in all of this. And he has his own backstory of why he is overprotective of this daughter of his, and you don't find out till almost the end, almost why. It almost seems like it's just that cultural strictness, but there's more to it than just that. Um, you know, he he has his own issues, and so I think writing him was actually um, was actually a lot of fun for me. And obviously I love writing my main characters. I spent so much time with them. I loved writing about Daniel and his family, particularly his relationship with his sister. I really enjoyed. I loved writing about Annika's little brother, and all of that kind of thing. So I love those sibling relationships and family relationships. But I did really enjoy writing her dad. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
So what can we expect from you in the future?
So I am currently working on, or I just finished developmental edits for my third book with HQN, which is where these two books came from. And I don't have a title for it just yet, but the characters are Ria and Dylan. And Ria is an Indian woman firefighter, and Dylan is a veterinarian. And they have their own issues, and that comes out next year. And then I also have two books with Harlequin special edition that I'm also working on this year. And the first one is definitely going to be of the fake relationship trope. So we have Nikhil and Anita who were married, got divorced, and now for many reasons they had to pretend to be married for 5 days while his sister gets married. So I have 5 days to get them back together. So excuse me. So we'll see how that goes. And the special edition books are due to come out next year as well.
Oh, this sounds like fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you about being a writer. What's your favorite part of being a writer and on the whole writing and publishing process?
So my two favorite parts of being a writer, the first favorite part I have is I love making my reader feel something, whether it's anger or love or sorrow. I love being able to create a feeling using my words. I feel like that's just something like, when a musician will try to create a feeling with different notes and songs, I wouldn't even know where to begin to do that with music. But I love that. I love being able to evoke feelings from my reader and take them on this journey with just words. So that is my ultimate favorite thing that I love to do. The other thing is something that we're not able to really do right now. I love going to book signings. I was able to do some book signings last year before everything shut down for my debut. So that was fun. And my first one was actually with Nora Roberts because I live in Maryland and so does Nora Roberts. And so she's very, very generous and invites new authors to her bookstore to sign. And I was able to do that as well as a few others before everything shut down. And I really, really am looking forward to being able to do that again and just talk to readers or potential readers and see what they like about the books, what maybe they don't like about the books, and just their excitement. There's a lot of energy there that I really, really enjoy.
And what's been your greatest lesson so far in being a writer? And
So my greatest lesson, I think, is that in the 3 books that I have written, I have always hit a point where bad things have all happened. They're broken up. And now I don't know how I'm going to get them back together. Like now I don't know how to finish the end of the book. And I just ponder that for like, I can't even tell you. And and it's happened 3 times, and 3 times I figured it out. So I think that's my greatest lesson is that I know I'm going to hit that point in a book where everything was flowing and now it's not anymore. And 3 times I hit that point and 3 times I got past it and I ended it and I figured it out. So I know writing the next book that I'm going to hit that point, but I also know that I'm going to get past it because I've done it before. So I think that was like my biggest lesson I learned, that I can actually hit that horrible point and I will find a way to get past it.
where the characters will tell you how to get past it sometimes.
Characters don't always tell me, but they're there. They're the ones who write me into a corner to begin with. Because they're not doing what I thought they were gonna do, and now here they are. And before I became a writer and I listened to authors, I never really could understand what that meant, because part of me was like, they're your characters. Why aren't you just writing them the way you want? Well, now that I'm writing them, I totally see how you're going along and you think this is what's going to happen, and all of a sudden your character decides to do this, and I was like, well, that's going to be really hard to get out of. Now what? And 3 times I figured it out, so here's for the 4th and the 5th.
Definitely hope so. So what do you consider the most challenging part of the writing process, and how do you overcome that?
Oh, the most challenging part is right where I am right now with this book 4, with the special edition book. And that is getting that initial draft out. That is getting that story out, getting the outline, the story. My first draft is ugly. It literally has things like, she said this, she said that. It's terrible writing, but that's my first draft. And it is the most challenging for me to look at that blank page and put words on it. Once I've drafted, I can edit anything. And I think that was another lesson I've been taught before, that at least put something on the page, because you can edit that. you can't edit a blank page. So that blank page and drafting that initial first, like get you from the beginning to the end of the story, that is the hardest part for me. I do a lot of brainstorming. I do a lot of free writing. I do a lot of calling a friend. Help, let's talk about this. So those are the things that work for me. And again, did it 3 times. Should be able to do it next time, another time. It's just gotta put in the hours.
Hmm. Yeah, several authors have said that same thing. It's
Mhm.
just get through that first draft, and we're free and clear.
Right.
Yeah. So what's been your favorite adventure in your writing career?
My favorite adventure in my writing career. Well, my writing career is still new, and at each juncture, everything was exciting. It was exciting when I finally landed an agent. You know, when you get that, I got an email that said that a call was coming, and that was fabulous. And then finding out that I was being published, and not just for the initial book, but for 2 books. That was also an adventure. That first book being published, I mean, I think there's nothing like that. Release day is my second release day was probably more stressful because I knew a little bit more than I did the first time around. Um, but it was definitely fun to do all of it. You know, it was fun to do all the different book signings and meet all the different people. I think writing a book itself is an adventure. Trying to figure all that first book was really what I ended up is really not what I started out with. I mean, the basic premise is there, but the words and everything is different. And so I think the whole thing is just it's just one big adventure. And I'm still new, so maybe after I've written a few more, maybe I would feel, you know. And then there's COVID, so we were, you know, I released and then everything was shut down, so I missed big meetings and everything, and we're not still doing them this year, at least right now. So I released in COVID, as did many of my contemporaries. So advantages like being able to talk to you in Massachusetts is fabulous. Disadvantages, you know, I wasn't able to do any local book things or anything like that. um, so that has been definitely an interesting thing that happened.
Right. So, what piece of advice would you want to share with other authors?
The thing I want new authors to know, newer than me in any case, is that I think it's really, really important to believe in yourself and in your work. I know may sound a little trite, but you know, if you don't believe that you've written a good book, then how are you going to sell it? Um, because ultimately, you wrote it because you want people to actually read it. And so I think it's really important to believe in your work, um, so that you're able to encourage other people to pick it up and to read it. And also believing in yourself helps you to continue to do the thing that you love. Um, so I know it sounds like, oh, believe in yourself, but I honestly, you know, when you're at a book signing, and there's tables and tables of other people also signing books, and you want someone to pick up your book, you need to talk about it. You know, you need to tell them about you, to tell them how great you think it is. It's great for your friends to say that too, but it's nice if it comes from you too.
And are there any groups, clubs, or organizations that you'd recommend to other writers that have helped you in your career?
So I am a member of my local romance writer groups, Maryland and the DC chapter, and I have met a good number of people in both of those chapters who have been very, very helpful. Um, I also met some people, romance writers, just incidentally through friends type of thing. Who one of them who is through a cousin I met, and she's actually a very good friend of mine. She's published as well, Shayla Patel, and I met people at conferences. Through commonalities, being on a going to their panel and approaching them afterwards, and some of them we formed like our own little groups where we write together, we do sprints together. I have a few friends that I know that, a couple of girls that I count on for my brainstorming while I'm trying to do that first draft. I'll be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I know I can call them. Even during COVID, we did FaceTime and just talk things through, and we do that kind of for each other. Um, and so, yeah, I think my local chapters have been really helpful, meeting people at some conferences that I've been to, and forming our own little like 5 or 6 people, or maybe 10 people, like retreat group. Going to retreats has definitely, I've met people that way. I think if there's an author out there who's looking for sort of a support system, I would say reach out to your local chapter within your genre. I did do a more general genre group earlier, which was helpful for many reasons. But once I started like sort of tightening into romance, I really needed to be with other romance people who understood the tropes and all of that kind of thing. And I feel that's true for maybe even sci-fi or mystery. Like, it's great to have that general feedback, but then it's nice to be within your genre and get that kind of feedback, so that and romance writers are we help each other. So that's always been a positive thing there.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, now I have questions about you as a person. Okay. Now, what is one thing that most people don't realize about you?
Huh. um, I mean, what is one thing that people wouldn't realize about me? Um, I think if you know me as an author, you might not realize that I have a day job. I'm an optometrist, and if you know me as an optometrist, you may not realize that I have sort of this, because it's the science and the art sort of balance. So that's one thing. I was also a triathlete for a little while there. I mean, I guess I still do, but I haven't competed in triathlons for a few years. But I did that in my 40s, basically. I don't know what else.
Well, that's good. You're an optometrist. Yeah. A lot of writers do have day jobs, and
Yes.
because writing is very difficult, and
Yeah.
it's not extremely lucrative. Yeah,
Not all the time. Not all the
not
time.
in time.
I think that I do know some people who have been very successful at making it lucrative, and I'm working towards that goal. So let's see what happens.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. What question do you wish interviewers would ask you, and what would your answer be?
Um, so the question you just asked me was, what was one thing people would know, like personally about me? But I actually prefer the question of what is one thing that would surprise people to know about you, like a little tidbit. And my answer to that would be is that I was on the Today Show in 2012 for a baking contest.
Really?
Yeah. So I bake cake. I love to bake. It's a very creative outlet for me. Um, and this is kind of, I had just started writing, and I've been baking for years. I baked all the kids' birthday cakes, their nephews, whatever. I did all of that. So I had baked, so there was a contest in 2012 for the best homemade birthday cake. So it was for like people like me who just baked at home type of thing, not for professional bakers, right? And all you had to do was email in a picture of your cake and the recipe. And I did. And an intern called me and invited me to come up. And it was me and two other women to come up sort of for the finals type of thing. So we baked our cake. We took it out there. We decorated it in the Today Show kitchen. They put us up for the night. My husband came down, and then we got to go to the green room. They did our hair and makeup. So that was just a really fun thing to do. And then we had our cakes out there, and I think we were on for maybe 12 minutes. And Natalie Morales came in. We had a surprise judge who ended up being Martha Stewart. And she came across and looked at all our cakes and tasted them all. And the girl who won was actually, at the time, she was in college. I'm talking, this was like almost 10 years ago, right? 9 years ago. She was in college at the time, and her cake was delicious and it was so beautiful. And so she won like the prize, but I mean, the actual prize was just being there and having this experience, and it was just so much fun. Um, so that was one thing I did. And people used to ask me, they're like, "Oh, why don't you start a bakery and everything?" And I was like, "Well," I toyed with that idea for about 10 minutes, and I was like, because then I'd have to bake for work. And I really wanted to keep my baking just for fun, just for, when I wanted to do it, and not because I had a cake due. So that's that would be one little tidbit.
It's great. A lot of people would say that about writing.
Yeah, they would. But for me, for writing, I need that deadline. Like, and I do get a great deal of satisfaction of seeing like my book in print and all of that. So yeah, is it harder now because I know I have a book due in June and I'm still drafting it and I need to figure it out? Yeah, it's harder, but it's a challenge that I am excited about.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. Um, okay, what is or are your passions when you're not writing? And how do you make time for your non-writing hobbies and things that you love?
So the things that I love are the things that I've talked about already. So
Hmm.
I love to bake. If I'm on a hard deadline and I really, really need to crunch out the words, then I may not bake, but I leave it as a reward for myself. Same with reading. Um, every writer I know is a reader. I mean, you have to be a reader before you can be a writer, I think. And I have a ton on my to be read shelf back here, of books that I'm just dying to read, but I will not read them. I leave them as, so the things that I love to do, like reading and baking, I leave as sort of rewards for myself. When you reach a certain point, you can start reading that book. When you reach a certain point, you can bake this thing that, or this new item, type of thing. The other stuff, the training and I'm not doing triathlon anymore, but um, I just still I use all those skills. Like, I work out every day, and I try to maintain sort of that discipline of exercise and everything because I do enjoy it. And I'm hoping that once the weather gets better, I'll be able to get outside on my bike again, because that's also very relaxing. And actually, sometimes ideas come to me while I'm riding because you're just riding a bike outside, and that's kind of how I do that. How do I make time for those things? I just find I make the time when you need a break or you're gonna burn out. So I do this. I like to see my friends. I like to go out when we can go out, and that kind of thing. So it's and my kids are grown, so I'm not actually taking care of anybody. It's just me and my husband and our little dog. So I keep looking over here at my dog to make sure she's fine. But yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, he's got some sunshine.
That was actually one of my questions. If you had any furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions that either help or hinder you with your writing.
Yeah. So Nala is our COVID dog. And so we had a dog that we'd have to put down, and we decided, as empty nesters, that we weren't going to get another one because my husband was traveling, I was writing, and I was traveling a lot for promotion. And, we just thought, we'll just keep it this way. And then, boom, everything shut down. And then we were like, wow, wouldn't it be nice to have a dog? So we got a COVID dog. So we have little Nala, who's adorable. She's a rescue, 20 pounds. We think she's a hound and dachshund, some kind of mix. I don't know. Um, she does hinder me sometimes, but I do think that she's a big help because without her, I would just sit in front of the computer for 6 hours straight. So it's nice to every hour, every couple hours, have to get up, maybe take her out for play or something and enjoy the sunshine, at least move my body a little bit so I'm not sitting constantly. Um, and she's a comfort. She's another soul in the house, who doesn't talk to me, and lets me write with me. And many times, like right now, I'm in my office. And so right now, because I'm doing the hard drafting, I make myself sit in my office as opposed to comfortably on the sofa. So sometimes I'll sit comfortably on the sofa, and it's nice to have someone to snuggle up with. But yeah, definitely have become a dog person, having her here. So
And and one of my questions is, what does your writing space look like? And I am assuming that what is behind us is your writing space.
That's so yeah, I'm in my office. So when I turned 50, one of my very, very close friends gave me a little placard that said Mona Shroff author on it. And she said, "This is for your desk." And I said, "But I don't have a desk." And she just looked at me like, so, and my kids, I think that summer my son had actually got, my youngest had gone to college. And so we kind of took over the computer room where the kids used to do homework. And this is that room. And we had already had these bookshelves here. And so I got a desk. And so now I have sort of my own space. This is my office. This is where I can shut the door. I can, so my husband can be on the first floor and do his thing. And I can just shut the door and I can be in my space surrounded by my books and my sticky notes. I mean, my desk is cluttery for some people, but I like it this way. I
So what
like
do
to
you? Oh,
have my cards, and
so what do you have to have around you when you're writing?
I have to have something to drink. So it's either coffee or water for me. Um, and I have to have sort of my sticky notes and my index cards. My index cards are for each chapter as I write, as I start to solidify my story. I like to, because then I can see my story at a glance on the index cards. And my sticky notes are for ideas that I get. Oh, you have to research this. Oh, this is a good idea for a scene that I'm not going to do right now, that I'm not going to research right now because I'm in the middle of doing something else. So I love my sticky notes for that. And they're all over. They're all over. And then I have a door over here. So all my scene ones just go up on the door. I thought about putting an easel in, but I can just stick it on the door.
Do you have a
And
favorite pen or something?
I do. I have these. I don't know where they came from. I have these pens. What are they called? Signo. And I have them. I have two blacks, a red, and a blue, which is perfect because I do always do red for the girl, blue for the guy, and black for the rest of the narrative, like whatever I'm doing. So right before we got on today, I was going through what my characters want and need. And because I'm having a hard, I'm just sort of still drafting it out. And, what's the worst thing that could happen to them? And I like to write, even though I know who I'm writing about, I like to write my male hero in blue and the female hero in red. So at a glance, I can tell who's who.
So
And
you do you actually write longhand instead of on your typewriter? Typewriter.
I'm writing. Well, I write longhand when I
Keyboard.
am trying to figure out who they are. I do a lot of free writing. Like I will write pages upon their backstory and everything. It just helps me to get a feel for who they are once. But if I'm writing some of the story, I'm typing. So I have a mixture today of I came up with a few things and then I typed a few things and then I wrote a few. It's just, yeah.
Combination. Combination of things.
I'm not
Okay.
actually writing I'm not actually writing my novel in a book, but I will write some dialogue if I just want to see how it's going to play out. I'll scribble some dialogue in my notebook for that book to see how it's going to play out, and then I'll take it to the computer and I'll play it out further if I need to. But sometimes just playing out that dialogue, I don't really need that dialogue in the book. I just need to know who they are. Like I need to know how they would respond, and I'll just longhand that sometimes, and it's illegible by anybody else but me anyway. No one can scribble. It's scribble.
Your own shorthand, right?
My own shorthand. Like if I go to it 2 weeks later, I'll be like, I have no idea what that says right now. So yeah.
And when you're writing, do you prefer music or do you prefer to be quiet or?
Again, it depends on what I'm doing. Like a lot of times if I'm writing, say, a kissing scene or a love scene, I will have songs that sort of put you in the mood for that motivate me for that. So I'll put that on repeat and just play it, so that I can get the right feelings out. Or if there's a certain song that brings around a certain angst that I'm looking for, I will play that song so that I can maintain that feeling inside me so that I can put it into words. If I'm just drafting like what's happening next, I might just, it needs to be silent. I cannot write with the TV on. I can edit sometimes with the TV on, but I can't draft because I'll just watch whatever's on the TV. But a little bit of background music. I'm also really enjoying, and I didn't know it was a thing until I watched Bridgerton, but the modern music with classical instruments. I don't even like, a friend of mine has, she sent me all these links because I am really loving, like, so it's our modern songs, but like with a violin and like an orchestra, and it sounds classical. So that's actually really good background music too. I really do like that. I really am enjoying that right now too. So yeah, I think I do like music.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I just have two more questions. Oh, well, I asked you about your favorite drinks, but do you have any favorite foods that you need with you?
I do. So when I'm drafting or if I'm having a hard time, I really do like my peanut M&Ms. It's not the best thing, I'll be honest. It's not a great thing, but I do need the peanut, and I put them in the microwave so they're melty. Like that's how I eat them. And so yeah, so I am a chocolate person and I will look for my peanut M&Ms, especially when I'm drafting. And part of me, I think it's just I just want that distraction for like 2 seconds. Um, but other than that, like I don't have any specific foods that like I try not to eat a lot when I'm drafting. I like my fingers to stay on the keyboard. Um, so, but yeah, definitely the peanut M&Ms is dangerous for me when I'm drafting a story for the first time.
Okay.
Of course, I
Um,
ride my bicycle afterwards too. So,
mhm.
hmm.
My last two questions here. One is, where can people find your work? And that's besides Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, although they should totally check here first. And I'm going to give a little bit of a plug for Annie's.
Yeah.
We'll have your books, and you can buy your books at Annie's, and all you have to do is either send email to orders at anniesbooksworcester.com, or you can call us at 508 796 5613. And or you can look at our website, which is anniesbooksworcester.com. And you can buy her books, buy Mona's books, or you can buy any books
Yeah.
um, at Annie's. But where else could you buy your books?
So my books are at a good number of local independent bookstores around, and you know, if it's not in your local independent bookstore, call and ask them and see if they can get it. It's also available as of yesterday. I heard it was in Publix. It's in Safeway. It's at Targets. Um, it's so we have some grocery store, a Walmart, I believe. It's also at Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million. And of course it's on Amazon if that's the easiest, if that's easier. But I would like to put a plug in for not just Annie's, but Annie's, of course, is a local, I'm sure, independently owned bookstore, but a lot of the local independently owned bookstores will carry my book, and I've done a few events with the ones in my local area, as well as the more famous romance bookstores, which would be the Rip Bodice and Love Sweet Arrow, one in California, one in Chicago. So you can find those around. So it's you know, I do get people will around the country will post pictures, or my family around the country will tell me, oh, I saw it in Safeway, and I saw it here, and I saw it in Target, and yeah, so those places it's definitely available, and of course it's available on Amazon too.
How does it make you feel when you see your book in a bookstore?
It's really cool. It's really, really cool. And that is kind of become a little bit of a tradition for me, even though it's only been twice, that on the day of release, I don't go into the office that day. And I go around and I visit my book. So when my debut came out, I was actually in Nashville because my daughter was going to school there, and she'd had a car accident. So I went down a few days before my release to be with her, and I ended up staying with her through release. So on release day, we went for brunch, and then we went to Barnes and Nobles. We went to go visit my book at different places, which was kind of fun to see them on the store and then sign some stock. You know, that's always fun to do, is sign the stock that's there. So I did that this year. I went to Barnes and Nobles and I went to Books a Million and I went to my local Targets in Maryland. For some reason, they didn't have it, but other Targets around the country do have it. Um, and I signed the stock so that they can say it's a signed copy, and that's a lot of fun. But it's definitely not something that gets old. I thought, oh, my second book, what it'll be. Nope. It was just as exciting the second time around because then you see both of your books on the shelf. So that was fun. So it might only be one copy, but Barnes and Nobles had Them Now Always, and Then There Was You on the shelf, and I was like, wow, that's really, to see both of my books on the shelf together.
Oh,
So that
that's
was fun.
great.
I don't think it'll ever get old. That won't get
Yeah.
old.
So, and how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
So I'm really active on Instagram right now. So I'm at Mona Shroff Author on Instagram. It's also Mona Shroff Author on Facebook. So I have an author page that you can like and follow. So I'm fairly active on both of those. I am on Twitter, and that is at Mona Shroff Write for Twitter. And then I just got on TikTok, but I'm not really. I'm a little bit active there. I'm still trying to figure out the whole TikTok thing. And I feel like my call there is Mona Sees and Writes, as in sees like with your eyes because of the eye doctor. So Mona Sees and Writes on TikTok. So that is where I am. I also have a website, which I promise I'm going to do more with. It's monadshroff.com. And the website's also linked to my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But I am most active on Instagram, I believe, Instagram and Facebook, if you want to find me. So that's
Great.
where
So hopefully people will find you now
yeah,
after watching this video.
I hope so. I hope they
Yeah.
find me too.
Yeah. So hopefully if you're in the Boston or Worcester area, you'll come and visit us.
I would love to do that. I would
That would be
absolutely
great.
love to do that.
When,
Once we start traveling again, absolutely.
yeah, I know. Hopefully that will be soon. Hopefully.
That will be
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mona, for joining us today. And those are all the questions I have for you.
well, thank you
And
so much for having me, Selena. It was a pleasure.
and we will hopefully be seeing you. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.